Welcome to the Godfather Chronicles. My name is Miguel Garcia and I am your host. Through this podcast, I want to share my experiences in life, parenting, business, marriage, or anything else I could help you with. My goal is to try to bring as much value as possible so that you could apply this life lessons of mine and either avoid my mistakes or improve on the concepts that I'm going to share with you. My life has been a very full life, and I'm looking forward to many more years of great experiences. But I've been married for 36 years. My wife and I had 15 children, 13 alive right now. I built 6 businesses. I'm on my 7th. Natural Choice Company, which is sponsoring this podcast, is the latest company. And I'm excited to do this particular business with my wife as my partner, because as you probably guess, my wife had been raising children for the last 30 some years. And so she has been a homemaker and sort of, taking care of the family. Well, I go out and kill stuff and bring it home and eat it. It's been an interesting 36 years. I think we've gone through a lot of adversity, especially, losing our son, Rafael, in 2007 at the tender age of 7 years old. He got diagnosed with cancer, with a brain tumor. And in September of 2006, and he went to be with the Lord on January 1, 2007. But it was a wonderful experience that we went through with our entire family. I wrote a book about it. It's on the Natural Choice Company website. It's free if you guys want to download it, so that you could understand what we went through and how we dealt with what appears to be a very heavy cross. But again, God is so merciful and so wonderful that He took us under His wing and protected us and showed us the way and showed us that He wanted Rafael to be with Him. Regarding the business, I started a business with 2 partners back in 2002, and we sold it in 2017. We had a string of retail stores throughout the country, and we also built a ammo manufacturing business. We had a bunch of gun retail stores, and in 2017 we sold the tactical gear business, the retail stores. We had 24 stores, and then my 2 partners bought me out of the other 2 businesses, and so went through a lot of interesting experiences that I'll be willing to share with you in this podcast. So anyway, I'm going to start this by introducing myself and giving you a little bit of background, because to know is to love. And, a lot of times we see people and we don't know what they're going through or what they've been through, and we judge them. And so it is important for me to tell you about my life a little bit. I don't want to get too deep into it because I'm a very private person, but I want to be able to share the happy moments, the sad moments, the moments of adversity, and how we conquer those. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to myself. So my friends, I was born in Mexico. Very, very poor. My dad was a salesman for Remington Rand, and he used to sell typewriters and things like that to make things happen. I come from a family of 9, and so the whole house together, it was 11 of us. Back in the early 70s, actually 1971, my dad couldn't sustain the lifestyle that we had, even though it was a very poor lifestyle. And he mortgaged the house, and he came to the States. 5 years after that, my mom came to visit in 1976, and then when she came back from her trip, she said, "Hey, your dad wants us to move out here, so we're gonna start doing whatever we can to get the visas." So at that time, I was like, "There's no way we're gonna get a visa. I mean, it's just all of us and all that stuff. We don't have a lot of money or whatever." And sure enough, man, we got the visa. I was disappointed because all my life, you built your life, your friendships in your own country, and now we had to move. So June 9th of 1977, we came to the States. I had a scholarship that would take me from high school and to any career that I would want, and in a very prestigious university. And so my parents decided that they would send me back to Mexico and live with my grandparents for a while I attended school, and because it was a very prestigious university, and so they thought it was going to be a waste of an opportunity if I didn't take advantage of that. So my mom has been my mom more than anything has been very very strict with me and all that stuff. And so when I went back, instead of going to school, I got a job and I started hanging around with a bunch of guys. Changed soccer teams from my neighborhood to a different neighborhood and started hanging around with all kinds of stupid people. And my mom found out, and she told me, she says, "Hey, why don't you come over for Christmas break, and then you go back afterwards. You never seen snow, it's beautiful, blah, blah, blah." So I'm like, okay. So I flew in, and when my mom went to pick me at the airport, I had long hair. My mom, we always had short hair. And I went back like in August, so September, October, November, December, 4 months. I grew my hair, and my mom was looking for me at the airport, and she sort of passed by me. She didn't recognize me. So as soon as I said, "Mom," she looked over and she goes, instead of, "Hi son, how are you?" it's like, "You getting your hair cut as soon as we get home." And I'm like, "Okay, it's nice seeing you, Mom," basically. And so came home and spent Christmas, and I'm going, "Okay, Mom, when am I going back? When am I going back?" And she's like, "You're not going anywhere, man. You're staying here." And I'm like, "But my school, I got in my career," and I started doing the drama stuff, and my mom says, "There's no freaking way you're going anywhere." And my mom doesn't swear. So I knew she was for real. So anyway, she goes, "As a matter of fact, we have an appointment for you on Monday at the local high school. So you're going to join you're going to join high school." So I'm like, okay. I spoke no English whatsoever, just a little bit, and my interview with the principal was kind of a joke because I didn't understand anything he was saying. But anyway, they threw me in there, and we lived in a white neighborhood. So my dad would not live in a Hispanic neighborhood because he was concerned about the gangs, and that they would recruit me or I would join the gang or whatever. But my dad I guess he knew me. So we lived in a white neighborhood. So all school was white. I mean, very few just Hispanics, maybe 2 or 3 that I knew, and no African Americans. And so it was kind of tough, I didn't join a white gang, but I got my butt kicked by white gangs, and got chased around and all sorts of things. So it was an interesting first year in high school. I got robbed a couple times, and anyway, so my world was turned upside down. But little by little, I started adjusting because I realized that there's no way I'm going to go back, right? So I started adjusting. Then I met my wife's family. They moved from Guatemala, and they lived about a block and a half away from me. And then the Puerto Rican family moved about another block away, and all of a sudden I had people that I could, sort of relate to and hang around. So that was kind of my early years. I was 15, 16 years old. Then interesting thing though, when we came to the States, my dad lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in a basement, and it was 9 of us living in a 1-bedroom apartment, 1 bath, really small kitchen, and the sleeping arrangements were that my sisters would sleep in the living room. Then we had a sofa bed, my parents in the bedroom, and the boys would sleep on the floor in the common area or the laundry. And so, about 8, 9 o'clock, nobody's doing laundry, so we open up the door and lay down the carpet and sleep on the floor. For my dad, it was a little embarrassing, but he was so happy that we were together, that he told me, he goes, we're going to work our butts off. I promise you I'm going to work overtime, and we're going to get out of this apartment. So I was 16, and I said, well, can you give me a job there? He worked at Zenith, and he got me a job. The only problem was it was the only job available was in the 3rd shift. So I would start at 11 o'clock p.m. and get out at 7 o'clock, and then drive about 40 minutes back home and go to school. So I did that for about 8 months, but the pay was good. It was a union job, and so I was making like $6 an hour back then, and that's 1978. And 78, 79, something like that. But anyway, I was making good money, so we started saving money. Now it was my mom working, my dad, and myself. And then my younger brother started working too, so we started pulling our money together, and we were able to get enough money for a down payment and then buy a house with my uncle. So we moved out of the 1-bedroom apartment, and now everybody had the room. They had rooms. We were sharing it with brothers and sisters, but bunk beds and things like that. But it was better than sleeping on the floor. So even back then, I wanted to get better. I started looking at life in the United States and the possibilities, and really understood that this was the land of opportunity. All you have to do is to work hard. That's all. And opportunity just shows up. So I was in high school and at that time, and things weren't going well. We started getting more Hispanics into the school, and gangs, Spanish gangs started showing up and recruiting and things like that, and got into a few fights with guys that wanted to recruit me, and I didn't want to join the gang. I didn't want to join the gang because, to me, it didn't make sense. I didn't want to be with a bunch of guys that said they were my family, and they would get in trouble. They would do drugs and steal and do stuff that I wasn't thought to do. And so I started getting a lot of peer pressure and to do drugs and to hang out with these people. And I told my parents, I'm going to quit school. So I quit high school. So I am a high school dropout. I went back got a job, a day job, and then in the evenings I was going to school to get my GED. I got my GED. Then I got a new job working at a factory with my uncle, and I was there for about a year. and a position opened up. This is 1980. A position in the computer room, they call it, opened up. This lady was expecting, she was a computer operator for an IBM mainframe machine, and they said, anybody who's interested, apply, and we'll send you to school. So I applied and I got the job, and they sent me to school. So I was going to college, a community college, for a while there, and the company said, "Hey, we'll pay for your school here if you want a career in computers." And this is again 1980, where the PC was just coming out, and I was learning about computers back then. So it was pretty impressive. Needless to say, with the girls and the parents, to say, "Hey, what do you do?" "Well, I work with computers." And like, wow, Miguel must be pretty smart, and that helped me with my wife, my mother-in-law. She was very impressed. So I became a computer operator, and then a junior programmer, then a programmer, and then I finally got laid off in 1992, and I was a computer programmer analyst. I got laid off because we got bought out, and they were going to move from mainframe computers to networks, to PC networks. So I got laid off. I got a year of severance pay, and I went back to school, and I got my Novell network certificate. And so I was able to work on PCs and build networks and things like that. So that was kind of exciting. Well, back then, there was a lot of stuff going on. I got, I started dating Dora, and then I knew she was the one. I knew that she was the one that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. And so, we started going out. I went and asked my father-in-law if I could date her, and he told me, yes, you can, but you be careful. If you mess with my daughter, I'll kill you, basically. That was interesting. Then we dated for about a year and a half or two, and then I asked for her hand, and I didn't. My parents did. It was very formal. My parents had to go and meet her parents, and ask for her hand for me. And my father-in-law looked at me and says, "When do you want to get married?" I think maybe it was October or something like that, or September. And I said, "Well, January or whatever." He goes, No. You're going to get married in June of next year. I'm like, okay. So we got married in June 16, 1984. Beautiful event, the best thing that ever happened in my life. The fact that I got to share my life with such a wonderful woman, it's amazing. It's God's blessing, definitely. God definitely likes me, because to have such a quality, such caliber of a woman like Dora is, it's amazing. I really truly don't deserve her, but anyway, so we right away we're expecting. I had my daughter Michelle, and then every 2 years we had a child, basically. And so things started getting hard, because obviously children are expensive, and Dora had a lot of she was a very petite woman, very, very small, and she had a lot of problems with the first pregnancy, and so she spent weeks in the hospital during the first pregnancy, and it got very expensive. So I had a lot of bills, and so I tell people that I was working as a programmer during the day. I had to wear a shirt and tie. They would prefer I wear a suit. This was the 80s. I mean, you had to dress up, And during the day, I'm wearing my shirt and tie and all sorts of things. And then I got a part-time job at night, cleaning a factory. I remember I had a crew, and the lady would go clean the offices and vacuum and things like that, and me, the guy, I had to go, mop floors, sweep floors, clean toilets. And I would detest that so much, man. You go to these factory bathrooms and it's like somebody, every single day, somebody had diarrhea or some shit like that, quote unquote. My God, man, I'm cleaning these toilets and I'm about to puke and I'm going, what am I doing? What am I doing? It's like, you're a programmer, dude. I mean, you're an office guy. Now you're cleaning shit out of the toilets. But the fact that it was a job that was paying me good, and it was allowing me to get out of debt and, live an honorable life. It's an honest earning, and I was getting out of debt, and he was paying the bills and helping me get along. So from then on, I held several part-time jobs throughout my early years of marriage, because I needed to get ahead and pay the bills and get ahead. I was a waiter for about almost a year or two, and I liked that better than cleaning toilets. Made some good money, started getting to know people and how do you customer relations and things like that, and make sure that I turned on the charm and got good tips and things like that. So that was awesome. Then I did, I did real estate work with a realtor. I also did taxes. I had to drive to the Hispanic community and help them with English and things like that, and do their taxes. So I always had two jobs, and I don't recall regretting that. I mean, that's the life I chose. I wanted to give my family a good life, and so I was going to sacrifice myself. That was my deal. But it has always been that. I don't mind sacrificing myself for my family. I find that very rewarding and honorable, because I am the head of the household. I am the man of the house, and I am no wuss, and so I'm not gonna let my wife, go out and do what I'm supposed to be doing. That was kind of my deal, and having a household with 3, 4, 5 children, it's a lot of work. It's not easy task, and so I had to do what I had to do. Anyway, so meanwhile, I started, going out a little more with my so-called friends, and started drinking a little too much, and things started falling apart with a lot of our friends and families, and people were getting divorced. Started being some of them had some really serious alcohol issues and things like that, and so I realized that the environment wasn't good for me, because I thought that I was going to end up like them. So I had the conversation with Dora, and I said, if we really want to change, it's not going to be here. We need to move out of here. So she agreed, and we started making plans to move out of Chicago. And in 1995, we moved to Kansas. You might wonder why Kansas. So during 1992, 1993, I went to a spiritual retreat, and it's called the Ignatian Retreat, and it's a 5-6 day retreat. It's silent, so you go to conferences, and then you do meditations and things like that, and you have consultations with the priest. And so I went to confession, and I was talking to a priest, and he says, you got to get out of Chicago, otherwise you're going to lose your soul, and your children are going to lose their souls, and you this is in jeopardy, blah, blah, blah. So I met a bunch of guys that were from St. Mary's there. And one of the guys said, hey, I'm selling my house. And I'm like, okay, what kind of house is it? because we owned a house, and it was a one bathroom home with 3 bedrooms. And so this guy told me, well, my house is 5 bedrooms, two bath, full baths, and it's in 1/3 of an acre. It's just beautiful. And I said, oh, really? How much is it? And he goes, 60,000. And I'm like, crap, man. My house was $125,000. I was paying like $700 in taxes or $800 in taxes. And I started doing the math, and so we came to Kansas to see the house. And I started pricing car insurance and all sorts of things, and I was like, man, I could make it. I could make it out there. So I moved first, got a job as a network operator for a manufacturing company. Then I moved in with 2 guys. So here's a mature man with 2 young guys, and the way they're living was not the way I'm used to live. Dora is extremely clean. She's very tidy and neat and everything else. And so with being a bachelor again with 2 guys wasn't cutting it for me. So anyway, so I had Dora move with the kids, and we put a house for sale, and we left it there, and the realtor was going to take care of it. And we moved into a trailer home. I had never seen a trailer home in my life, and I moved into a trailer home, and it was horrible. It was just bad. We had no air conditioning, and Dora was expecting, and she had a miscarriage, and it was a pretty tough summer, So we went out and got some window air conditionings and things like that for that. But we moved into the trailer until the house in Kansas, well, the house in Chicago closed, and we closed on the house in Kansas. So that took about 3 months. So from June to September, we lived in a trailer home. It was horrible. We went through several storms, typical Kansas storms, and they were scary. I thought that trailer was going to just fly out of there, like in the movies. But so when I came from Chicago, I was in Chicago. I was making $44,000 a year, which what translates to $22 an hour or something like that. And I moved to Kansas, and my pay was $11 an hour. But we had no debt whatsoever, and so that helped out a lot. Then worked there for about a year. Then I moved to another company. It was a telecommunications training company, and they were growing like crazy. And they would teach technology courses, like the internet when he was first starting. Also, any telephone technologies like, well, you won't know this, but it's called SS7 protocols and the early internet technologies, broadband and what the hell was that other thing? I can't remember. But early technologies, and they were teaching it to all the telephone companies, and we were growing pretty fast. So when I got hired, they hired me to do a certain job, and I started mastering that job, and then I said, okay, I'm done with this. I got this under control. You guys need anything else? And they're like, oh my God, okay. Well, nobody asked for that, Miguel, but if you want more work, here it is. So they would give me another type of work or whatever, and I would sort of master that, and they realized that I was good at problem solving, and they gave me a huge responsibility with managing their calendar for the instructors. So the instructors would teach courses in several parts of the country, and we would have to schedule them and then do all the logistics to fly them there, hotels, cars, everything. And then after the 2-day class or whatever, they had to fly to another state for another class or whatever. So it was a really tough job, because you had to work on a schedule and the lady that was working on it, she had a whiteboard, and so she was, handwriting everything and all sorts of things. So they go, hey, she's leaving, she's getting married. We want you to take that over, which I did. But I said to them, I said, okay, I'll take this nightmare over if you give me the right tools. You give me the resources and the tools. And they're like, okay, what do you want? And I said, I want a programmer because I'm going to automate this thing. And they're like, okay. So I got a programmer and I told him what I wanted done. And the programmer, very smart guy. He became my business partner after that. But we designed an electronic calendar that would, based on the instructor's zip code in the seminar zip code, would send whoever was closest to that seminar. So we were saving money at the same time and not overtaxing the instructors, because sometimes this gal was flying a guy from New York to Los Angeles to teach a class, and that was just dumb, I think. And it was very expensive anyway. So after that, I started noticing that I was good at solving problems. I could look at something complex and then break it down and then you fix it. So the first year I tripled my salary working for them. And the owner was very entrepreneurial, and he would go, hey Miguel, if you help us save money, I'll give you a percentage. And I'm like, okay, so where's the problem? They're like, well, we're flying these instructors all over the place and it's expensive. They're booking their tickets and sometimes they don't respect the budget. And, we can't argue with them because they'll get mad, they'll quit, whatever. So he goes, you want to take that? And I'm like, okay, so what's the bonus? And he's like, okay, well, we'll give you, 10% whatever you save. I'm like, okay, done. Again, I told them, you're going to give me the resources. You're going to let me do this, right? And they're like, okay. So I created my own travel agency. I hired 2 travel agents. I did a contract with a national car rental and had him give me the Emerald Isle for all of the instructors. This is back then. This is in 2000. No, it was 1998 or 99 or something like that. And so I negotiated a really good rate, and the instructors basically would pick their car, and through national. So that was pretty cool. And they had to book the tickets through our travel agency. So our travel agents would look at the best deal for the company, and they would compromise with the instructor. So the first year we saved like $250,000. So I had this really good bonus, and I was like, wow, man, this is good. I mean, if I start figuring things out and getting the results, I'm gonna make a lot more money. So then we had the 9/11, and all travel stopped after that. There were no more classes, no anything, and so our company went from $44 million or whatever in revenue to like nothing. I had 120 people under me, and I had to let go all of them except one. Then in 2002, I think, my boss told me, he goes, you got to lay off this other guy. And I'm like, no, man, I can't do that. And he's like, well, it's either you or him. And I said, well, give me a few days here. I'm going to figure something out. But then I had more confidence in me. I knew that I could figure complex things out if I simplified them. So I sort of had a system in my head. And so I went out and I got a job as a consultant doing sales for a training company. And so this guy was just growing his company, and I said, well, I need several states as my territory. I could do this, blah, blah, blah. I've never done anything like this. I did some level of sales in the Spanish countries with this company. I helped some of the salespeople, but never dial for dollars. And so my commission was pretty good. I would get 10% of whatever I sold, but I had to get at least 10 students in the class. So what I did, I came up with with my cheat sheet, and I had a script, and I was selling in states like Iowa, rural Illinois, Mississippi, Alabama, Arizona, and I knew I had to make 100 phone calls to get 10 closes. So for me, it was just a numbers game. I'm like, okay, I got to hit 100 calls, and I started practicing and calling, and all of a sudden, I was making over six figures pretty quickly. And so I'm like, okay, this is another skill that I've learned, which is sales. By then, my good friend was starting a business, and he was in a selling tactical gear. He goes, man, you're pretty good at this sales stuff. Can you help me with this? Because I'm a programmer. I'll build the website. I'll do all the cart stuff and all that stuff, the e-commerce. But I need somebody to answer the phone, answer questions, upsell, blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay. So I was doing two jobs. I was doing the training company, and I was also answering the phone and doing upsells and things like that. This field of tactical gear, it was very foreign to me because, I lived in Chicago, and it's very anti-gun, very anti-everything. And in this field, I was talking to officers, I was talking to soldiers, and they're asking me questions about a scope and all sorts of things. And so I had to learn real quick. And I got really good at it. And then I started figuring out contracts with the government, and I got into the DLA and the DOD, and I started getting larger contracts. In 2004, when our Marines went to Fallujah, 2 months before that, I got a call, and it was a lieutenant, and he was the purchasing guy for the brigade. And the brigade is about 3,000 or 3,500 soldiers. And so he said, hey, he gave me a list of things. He goes, can you quote me? And I said, I will quote you. This is a lot of stuff, but you have to go with me. I said, I'm not going to do all this work and then you're going to go shop it. And he goes, dude, I really need this. He goes, if you could get this stuff, you got the deal. And he was stuff outside my scope. Like we were selling, boots, slings, lanyards, holsters, things like that. And this guy wanted socks, jumping suits, underwear. Just all sorts of things outside our scope. Gloves and things like that. And he goes, can you get this stuff? And I'm like, yes. So I did a list. I started checking prices out, and I gave him what I thought it was going to be a decent price. And this was for retail. I was looking at retail prices. And so then I figured out who the manufacturers were, and I called them up and I said, look, I got a big order here, and I'm going to do this and blah, blah, blah. And I negotiated even a better price. So anyway, so the order started at about $50,000. And by the time we finished with everything, because he'd been going, hey, I'm going to add this to the list. I'm going to add this to the list. Now I had to do flashlights. I had to do all sorts of things. That again, we're outside my scope. But I had the confidence that I could figure it out. I didn't panic or anything like that. I'm just like, okay, I'll figure it out. And so, long story short, our order ended up being like $450,000. It's almost $500,000. Now the problem was I had to pay all of my vendors in order for them to ship the goods. So I had to get like $200,000. And so I called the lieutenant and I said, look, you got to give me a down payment. This is a huge order. You got to give me a down payment. And he goes, we don't do down payments on orders. And I said, well, I really need one. I said, if you can't give me the down payment, I don't think we're going to be able to do this. And by that time, he was totally vested. I mean, he had been working with me for a couple of weeks. And he's like, I need this right away. I need this right away. So there was a lot of sense of urgency. So I said, well, talk to your guys. Talk to your supervisor, to your boss, and let me know if you guys could do a down payment, but I need $200,000. So, man, he comes back, he goes, all right, we'll wire you the money. So they wire me $200,000. So I pay the vendors to get the orders out, and I was able to get that out for them. And then he disappeared for about 6 weeks. So I couldn't get the rest of the money because he wasn't around. He wasn't answering emails. He wasn't answering calls or anything like that. So I started sweating bullets. And I started going up to the chain of command. And then somebody told me, he says, well, the reason why he's not talking to you is not that he's ignoring you. He's in Fallujah. And so the Battle of Fallujah ended up being as one of the epic battles of our Marines, and I was part of that. I outfitted the brigade that went in there, and I was like, wow, man, this is so awesome. So it's awesome. So he came out and apologized, and paid me. And so I remember going to the bank and depositing my share of the profit. And the bank teller looked at me like, what the hell is this guy doing with this check? I was depositing $25,000 checks. And it's interesting. So I'm like, man, you could do this. You could go into a large scale. Now you did this. I mean, this was really hard. And so it gave me more confidence. And so I'm going to tell you something, guys. You need to have confidence in yourself. If you look at a problem and you start going, well, I don't know what to do, and then you start looking at all the negatives, then yes, you're going to have a problem. But if you look at an issue, a problem, a challenge, and you go, okay, how am I going to fix this? So again, it's the questions that you ask, the quality questions you ask yourself, the quality answers you're going to get, right? So I would ask myself the question, okay, how am I going to figure this out? And then I wouldn't have any issues with like, well, what am I going to do without the money? What am I going to, no, it's one thing at a time. Can I source this out? Can I figure out who makes this? Yes, okay, cool. Second thing, talk to them, tell them, about the size of the order, and then get terms, and then it's so one thing at a time. And instead of looking at the big picture going, oh my God, this guy went from $50,000 to $450,000. His order went to that. And so I don't look at it that way. I break things down. One of my core values is simplicity. And simplicity means to me that there's nothing so daunting that I can't do by breaking it down into smaller chunks. And then you work your ass off one chunk at a time. And that's how you eat the elephant, right? One bite at a time. And so that's what I do. So if you take anything out of this podcast today, of this episode, is don't look at the big picture of the big problem. Focus on the solution and break it down into manageable chunks, and then start getting some wins, and you get through it. So I've been applying that concept since back then. And I apply it to everything. Like for instance, in 2006, we brought a second partner into the venture because I had an appointment at the military base, and I went out there and I noticed that right outside the base there was a cleaners going out of business. And I took the number down. You had one of those things, that you go, I might be able to use that. So I went to the meeting with the lieutenant colonel, and he needed all his gear. And I said, what if I put a store outside the base? Would you send your guys out there shopping? He goes, hell yeah. I'm like, cool. I'll get this done. My partner was looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with you, man? And so I got on my cell phone, called the realtor. I said, meet me there in an hour. So we met the realtor, and he told me what the price of the building was, and I said, okay, write up the contract. And my partner's like, what the hell, man? what do we know about retail? What do we know about this? And I'm like, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. Sure enough, we got the building, and we got the building and remodeling it. And while we were remodeling it, I went out and I got 3 books on how to run a retail store, and that's how I figured it out. My partner wrote the program, the POS program, and it was just cool because he back then, 2006, he put a feature that where we would get a text every time we rang a sale, so we knew how much money was going into the till, and we could see how many orders we had during the day and all sorts of things. It was really cool. So that was May of 2006. September 2006, a person from inside the base came out to my store, and I noticed that this person was wearing like dress pants, and I'm like, that's not a soldier, and that's not a contractor. So he's one of those business guys inside the base. So I said, hey, how you doing? And he's like, fine. And I said, you're shopping me? And he just freaked out, looked at me, and he goes, well, yes and no. And I'm like, okay, what's up? What can I help you with? And he goes, well, would you like to open a store inside the base? And I said, yeah. And he goes, okay, so I'll bring you some paperwork and we'll go over it and I'll help you because I need a store like this inside the base. So I didn't know anything about contracts with the government. This type of contracts where you have a retail space inside the base and all sorts of things. And so I'm like, yes, let's do it. I'll figure it out. So we opened up our second store inside the retail, inside the base. Once I did that, I'm going, okay, let's figure out how many bases are there. Can we do this in a large scale? And so, fast forward to that, 15 years, and we had 24 retail stores. We had stores in Hawaii, New York, Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Kansas, obviously, Louisiana, Florida, just Washington State, just everywhere. And we got acquired in 2017. So we sold the business. But before that, my partners are big gun guys, and they're like, man, we wish we could sell guns. And I said, well, let's do some gun stores. And they're like, well, we got to figure it out. I'm like, yeah, let's figure it out. So we figured it out, and we got our FFL licenses and things like that. And we had 4 gun stores. And when on the Obama years where the ammo shortage happened, was it 2013, I think, or 14 or whatever it was, we couldn't get ammo for nothing, man. So you can't sell guns if you don't have ammo, right? And so I told my partners, I said, why don't we build our ammo facility, ammo manufacturing? They're like, no, man, what do you mean? We don't know anything about ammo manufacturing. I'm like, well, we'll figure it out. Sure enough, man, we figured it out, and the Angel Fire Ammunition still in business and doing very well now. So when we got acquired by a company that owns uniform manufacturing for law enforcement company, and they wanted to get into the military, so they bought us out, and they said, we don't want anything to do with guns or ammo or anything like that, because they were East Coast people, and they didn't want to deal with guns. And so we cut off the retail business that they want, sold it to them, and then we kept the other 2 businesses, and they hired me to run the company. And so my 2 partners, they like, you're not going to be working with us or anything like that. You're going to be doing that gig. And so they bought me out of those other 2 businesses. And I was running the company, and I was doing pretty good. My first year of running the company by myself with the guys that acquired us, our EBITDA jumped quite a bit, and they were very impressed, and so they asked me to stay. And they said, you could do whatever you want as long as you keep producing the numbers. You have a job here. So I'm like, okay. But then my boss, he was the CEO, left the company, and I got some young guy that liked people to kiss his ass, and I'm not a kiss-asser or ass-kisser, either one. So we started butting heads, and I told the guy, I said, you're fucking arrogant, man. I mean, I'm not going to deal with this shit. I'm just not. I don't have to kiss your ass. And apparently he didn't like that for some reason. But anyway, so I started thinking about, well, I better do something else. Then I started listening to Ed and Andy, their podcast, and it really dawned on me that I wanted to retire, and my goal was to retire at age 55. So we sold the company September 12th, 2017, and I was going to turn 55 on September 29th of that year. So I accomplished that goal, and I was like, okay, paid off my mortgage, went to the bank, paid off the mortgage and all sorts of things. And I'm going, okay, we're going to live. I told my wife, we're going to be able to live a comfortable life now. No debt, nothing. We just got extra money and all sorts of things. Then I realized that I caught myself, we're going to live a comfortable life. That kind of bothered me. It kind of brushed it off and all that stuff. But then started listening to Ed and Andy, and I realized, man, you're shortchanging your family. You still have a lot of gas in the tank. You could do other things. So I talked to my wife about it, and I said, why don't we start a business? And we had started a business in 2004, natural products. But then my other business, Patriot Outfitters, started taking off. So I told my wife I can't manage both right now because this is taking off. We're opening 2 stores, 3 stores every year, and it's just crazy. So now that I was able to, sold the company, had money and all sorts of things, I was able to look at the business again, and we decided that we were going to launch Natural Choice Company, which is sponsoring this podcast. And so here we are, man. This is my 7th business, and I see myself doing probably a couple more businesses that I have in my mind, and I think that we're going to do really well on all of this. Our goal now has changed. Our why has changed. It's not about my family anymore. Still is, but we have 4 charities that we really want to help, and we're inspired by that. Also, we want to help people with the natural products. Our son Rafael died of a cancerous brain tumor, and we changed our diet completely. We got rid of soda, we got rid of the microwave, all the processed foods, the canned foods. Just cleaned up our diet really, really quick, and we noticed a change. We started reading the labels on all the products that we were consuming, even body care products. You look at the deodorants and things like that, and they're poisoning us, man. And so we decided that we're going to stop that, as much as we can. And so that's why we started Natural Choice Company. And this is where we are right now. Getting back to Ed and Andy, they started the syndicate, and I applied, and I got in. So this is my 3rd year in the syndicate. Last year I had the honor and the privilege to serve in the advisory board. And the Godfather name comes from the syndicate. So the folks in the syndicate, my family, the syndicate, they call me the Godfather. I can't remember how it got started or whatever, but I love the name, and hence the Godfather Chronicles. All right, so I'm going to leave you down, and look forward to continuing this conversation. I'm having a lot of fun. Please DM me your questions. I love to answer those questions, in the podcast. You want to stay anonymous, that's fine. You could DM me in Instagram at magpatriot. You could email me at Miguel at godfatherchronicles.com, or you could find me on Facebook at Miguel Godfather. All right, guys. Love you. God bless you. Take care. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.